Society.
Strangers. Strangers in society.
Strangers on the internet.
A secret.
Strangers.
Society. Oh, welcome, stranger.
Secret society. Strangers.
Society.
Welcome to the secret society.
Strangers?
Hey guys, today we have a guest, Natasha from the Crime Squad podcast. She's here to share her experiences with paranormal events, and I think she's got a really interesting story. We already know the three of us mesh very well with her. I think our listeners are going to really enjoy this. So I'm just going to give you the floor. Natasha, you want to introduce yourself and take it away?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like you mentioned, my name is Natasha, and I host a podcast of my own called Crime Squad Podcast, which is a little different than this. So, I mostly do true crime, Canadian cases, both solved and unsolved. But I'm excited to kind of branch out and talk a little bit about some of the experience that I've had throughout my life where the paranormal has paid me a visit. So, yeah, I can just jump right in and if you have any questions or anything, just let me know.
Awesome.
I guess the quickest place to start is like the beginning. So I've always sort of seen things, heard things starting in youth, which I didn't really know was abnormal until, kids at school, when I would tell the stories about the things that I had seen or heard, would be like, that's weird. So you start to kind of layer some things over that and build that wall to protect yourself. So you don't want to be the weird kid. But I guess it's stuff like, being able to sort of tap into people. I can remember being 7 years old, maybe in the car at the gas station, and this man was filling up his tank, and I'm sitting in the car, and as I'm looking at him, I'm hearing this internal voice going, oh my God, I have to go get groceries. I forgot the fucking milk, and I'm like, why am I thinking of this? Like, what is going on? But I think, I'm sort of tapping into this person in a way. So that was kind of my first indication where there was definitely something, but I told myself it's nothing. And then I'll sort of skip ahead to the super validating part of it all. Which was the experience with seeing an apparition appear in my room. So I was 15 and I woke up in the middle of the night and I had a chair outside my closet. And in the chair was a woman. And I was sort of like, oh, just deer caught in headlights. And there was a slight wave. And I wasn't sure if I dreamt it. Of course, I'm trying to explain it away with logic. And then I actually called my grandmother the next day, who's been a pretty big supporter of all of this because, she has a gift as well. And, apparently her mother did too. So I'm always able to talk openly to her. And I described what had appeared to me. I described this woman down to like hairstyle, what she was wearing, shoes. And my grandmother actually burst into tears and was overcome by emotion. And I was taken aback because I'm like, what? Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
I said, what I do?
Oh, yeah, exactly. I'm like, what? Oh my gosh, don't turn on me. You don't turn on me too. But she actually told me that it was her friend Denise who had actually, unfortunately, passed away in a collision that the night before, the night that I saw her.
Oh, wow.
Oh, dang. That's wild.
Yeah. So I had never met Denise. I didn't know her from a hole in the ground. Like, I didn't know what she looked like, nothing. I didn't know there was an accident either. But it was one of my grandmother's very dear friends for a long time. And we've always said that, she must have come to kind of say her goodbyes through me.
She didn't try to communicate with you at all?
Just a wave. There was nothing said, just a wave.
It still
Yeah,
gives me the
just
chills.
No,
Yeah,
it's
that would be so
wow.
scary.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
when you hear or sense people, like, is it full out like thought, or is it more of like an emotional feeling?
That's a good question. And I think it's a little bit of everything. So first it'll start out with maybe I'm feeling anxious and I can't pinpoint why that is. Um, and so the anxiety will start, and then it's almost sometimes like the room will get thick, if that makes sense.
hmm
Like
Okay, yeah.
there's a definite sense that like something's in the room enough where I'll be like, what's that? Like and then I start getting all squirrely and looking around because I'm anxious. And then um, if there's like voices, like I hear them. And somebody actually once told me that, like I think it was a psychic medium or something, that if you hear someone's voice in your head, and it's not in your own voice, so like if it's an actual distinctive different voice, then it's somebody else, it's not you. And I never really thought about it like that before, but yeah, it'll start out really more oftentimes. It's not so much, I don't hear as often as what I feel, and there's a definite sense of like something's in the room. And yeah, that's kind of how it manifests.
Wow. So do you have difficulty during the day, like around everyday people? Like, does energy fluctuate, like depending on the room you're in with like people that are actually living?
Yeah, so a lot of people don't believe this because I come across as so extroverted, but I'm actually very much an introvert, and honestly because I think it's too much for me sometimes being around people. Um, the thoughts and emotions and the energies that I take in, I often find that I get like anxious and overwhelmed in social situations. And I've always just chalked it up to like, oh, I have an anxiety disorder, I'll just take some medication and I'll be great. And I do, but it still happens. So obviously, there's something more to it. And actually the more I fight it, the more anxious I find I actually become. So one of the things, like the tactics I've used for myself, and I'm like, well, you can say it's psychosomatic because again, I'm operating in logic, is I just tell myself, return to sender. When I have energy, like I start feeling a way
Oh,
that I don't like,
okay.
I'm
Like,
return to
get
sender.
it
Like I
out of
don't
here.
want it. Yeah, like I'm not here for it. I don't want to communicate with anybody this energy that I'm feeling. I don't want to pick up on this energy, so just return to sender. And I've had to learn to do that because otherwise, like I'm out in the grocery store and I'm feeling like some kind of way and I don't know why. And there's somebody and I look at them and I'm like, oh, it's because of you. You're making me feel this way. And like,
hmm
Are you
so
able to pinpoint? Like, are you able to be like, it's this person, this energy?
sometimes, yeah, because
Wow.
like it'll be like butterflies. Like it's like I see them and I'm like, oh, right away. I'm like, that's them. I know. And
Just
so
go
yeah.
and tap on him and be like, "Excuse me, sir. I need you to turn your
Yeah.
shit down. I'm trying to
Yeah,
get milk."
really. Yeah. I'm just trying to be chill, and you're stressing me out. But yeah.
I'm gonna have to
Sounds like
try that.
oh, it sounds like it's like more of like in the realm of like being an empath where you're like picking up on people's different energies, their vibrations and stuff like that. And then like you
Yes.
store it in yourself kind of like a battery, and then you're just so tired and drained of it. So you're just like, I just need to be away from people. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the return to center. That's where that comes in. It's really a
hmm
protection for myself because I will hold on to it and then I'll be thinking about it. And then, I start to sometimes go off of these tangents where I imagine so much of like, I always thought it was just an overactive imagination. And I would sit and think, okay, this person's going through this and this is why, and this is why. And before I know it, I'm so deeply entrenched and I'm like, no, pull back. I don't want to like sit here and imagine this person's life. Like, I just want to be relaxed and chill and dealing with my own stuff.
Right.
It's just interesting. I'm sitting back and listening because the situation Josh described and then the way you described feeling are exactly how I feel on an everyday basis, coming like with social
hmm
stuff. But I can't tell you that it's because I feel anything. I could also just be not accepting the fact because I
Well,
definitely
yeah.
think it gets worse.
Could just be
Yeah. Try
blocking it
the,
all.
Yeah,
Yeah, try
I'm
the
gonna
return to sender. See if that.
100%. I'm gonna try it. I
Yeah.
gotta try it. I've learned. I mean, we've only been doing this for a short time, and I've already learned a lot of personal expansion things.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. And that's really, I'm very much like a skeptic as well. And I've gone to many psychics and things like that. And I try to be very like even keel, like I won't give anything away. Only because I find, you know, they'll be like, oh, do you have someone in your family with the name Jay? And you're like, oh my God, I do. And I just feel like that's so, oh,
Yeah.
if not, oh no, or no, I don't. And then they're like, oh, what about an S? You know, and they
Like that
just,
John Edwards show
Yeah.
where they're like, oh, does anybody have a birthday in November? Well, yeah,
Yeah,
fucking
yeah.
everybody.
I do, yeah. So I when I do go though, it's crazy to me how much they hit on everything about me. Like the first thing they normally say is, "Wow, you're really powerful," and I'm like, "What do you mean?" And they're like,
Like, yeah, I'm a
"You
bad
have this."
bitch. I'm powerful.
See, so it works
Right?
both ways. That's fascinating too. So like you give it off as much as you can get it to other people that are sensitive.
Apparently. And before
So cool.
I really truly accepted and was trying to like find out what this gift is, they would always say, like every single one I went to, and I don't think there's like some network where they're like, hey, this girl came to me 3 years ago and now she's coming to you and this is what I told her, so you tell her this too. Like they always say you're not utilizing your gifts.
Mhm.
And I'm like, well, what does that mean? You know, I'm trying to be all cool. So what do you
Yeah.
mean? What gifts? I don't know what
Yeah.
you're talking about. And they'll pinpoint it. They'll be like, well, you see things and you hear things and you feel things. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I do. And they're like, and your dreams, wow, they take you on journees and there's messages in your dreams. You need to write your dreams down. All your guides are telling you, make sure you write your dreams down because there's so much you truly travel in your dreams. And yeah, I mean, that kind of like actually is the perfect segue into something I shared with you when we initially met, which was the dream sequence that I'd had where somebody that I hadn't seen since elementary school. So, and I'm in my mid 30s now, so that's quite a while ago. And I'll just call him B. So the dream started with a woman coming to me who I knew in the dream was his mother, even though I'd never met her. And she said that he needed to find me, using my first and last name as well, to find me because I had the answers. And this dream sort of left me feeling unsettled. I was like, you know, I haven't thought about that person in a while. I wonder what they're up to. And I let it go. Didn't really think anything of it. But then I had the dream again. But this time though, she's giving me a very clear message. Like, my son's in trouble. You need to help him if you can. Like, I need you to give him this message. He's not doing well. He's into drugs. And he's not going to make it out of it. Like, I need you to do something about it. And again, I'm like, okay, I'm feeling anxious about this. I'm feeling like I need to move forward. But the logical me is like, don't do that. Don't message this person from elementary school and be like, hey, so you're dead, mom. Like, is your mom dead? Because she came to me in a dream. So like, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to, you know. So let it go again. And over a year-long period, I continued to have these dreams where she was essentially like, help him, please. And then like showing me almost like a reel of like what his life could be like if he got sober.
Wow.
And I finally did. I was like, okay, this is enough. Like, the dreams are so realistic. Like, I can't even get across how realistic they are. I will remember the smallest minute detail. In one of them specifically, it was me and a woman who presented as his aunt. And we were at some bonfire out in the like somewhere in some field, and we actually his mother and his aunt in the dream world went and picked him up where he was passed out on the ground and dragged him away from the party. And it was a lot. So I messaged him, and he didn't say anything, and I said, well, that's all I can do, right? I mean, I message him, and if he doesn't reply, what can I say? But the message was really long, and it started out with, I know that this is crazy, and I know that I haven't seen you in a long time, but I just want to say that, you know, someone presenting as your mother has come to me in the dream world, and she's said to me that you're in trouble. Are you struggling with drugs? Because it's not going to be a good path for you. And it was something like 3 or 6 months later or something where he actually got back to me and said, okay, first of all, don't let anybody ever tell you that you don't have a gift, because you do. The first dream that you had, my mother had just died that week. And I am addicted to drugs, and I want to be sober, but it's really hard, and I'm going down the wrong path. And, you know, just essentially saying, thank you so much for coming forward for me. And I haven't, the dreams stopped. I haven't had them again. And I mean, I know unfortunately he is still addicted to drugs, and he's moved to fentanyl. So that's a tough one.
That one is a
So
tough one. I don't even
yeah,
like going to the hospital because like I have kidney stones and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna give you this fentanyl." I was like, "No, no," and then they always have to calm me down, like, "No, we're doctors, it's okay, just keep that
yeah,
away."
I know, it's awful. But yeah, so I mean, maybe there is something to this business of you know, people telling me that I go places in my dreams, because I'll tell you, I feel like that. Like at the end of the night, when you like in the morning when you wake up and you're exhausted and you're like, I feel like I lived, yeah, you're like I feel like I lived 1,000 lives last night. Like,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly. I can live a lifetime in a week,
oh
Mhm.
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember my dreams.
No,
Nope. 99.9% of the time.
There's a trick.
A lot
Right
of
before
people
you fall
don't.
asleep, you
Stop
start
smoking.
I'm going to remember.
That's
my
what I
dreams.
need to do.
Yeah.
Josh is it. Yeah, write it down. I've done all that. That's all good. It just,
Yeah.
Josh is on the nose.
Oh, because ever since I stopped smoking, like now I can just remember my dreams. Like, dude, they
Yeah.
are fucking wild.
No, but like I said, life's too hard.
That's fair. That's fair.
Maybe Lee's not supposed to remember his dreams right now. Maybe you're off
There we
doing
go.
battles.
I like the way
Didn't remember
I like
yet.
the way Jamie thinks.
Thanks.
Just out here enabling.
I like it's a good silver lining.
I have more
Mhm.
questions for you, Natasha. Does anybody else have any questions first, though?
Well, yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
good.
Get started. I got tons of questions.
So you have questions? Go ahead, ask some.
Okay. Well, first of all, do you do readings for people? Are you able to tap into energies that are around other people that, like in real time, they want to give a message to someone?
Yeah, that's a really great question too. And so it's been sort of a long journey for me to try and figure out how to harness that.
Right.
I don't. So I
Okay.
can't turn it on and turn it off.
Yeah.
What I will say is, you know, I've done like tarot card readings for people and things like that, but I really don't interpret the cards like my own. I usually have a book I refer to. But the funny thing is, every time these people are floored and they're like, "What? That's exactly like, how did this card come?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I'm just the messenger. Like, I can't. I'm not even giving them an interpretation." Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I will say too, like sometimes it does happen where, okay, this is the way that I try to describe it. When I see somebody and I have a vision about them, it's like a little, like, you remember old TVs, how you could do picture in picture? I don't know if you can do that still.
Yeah.
You know, like there'd be the little picture.
What I do, Natasha, is the same. I know what you're saying.
Really?
Yeah,
So it's like,
my head.
Wait. You know what? I need to hear that.
Yeah. Back up.
I'm not as special as you two. So picture in pictures. So you see, like, I explain it again. I'm sorry.
yeah, no worries. So for me, it's like, and it sounds like it's similar for you too, Jamie. So it's like a little screen that will come up right here. I'm not even really doing it justice, but like for you, it's there. Okay. So for me, it's like here, and I look with my eyes at it, but not right at it. It's like beside it. And I can still be present in this. Like I'm still seeing the person, but I'm seeing an entire montage of something. So, I mean, randomly, a friend of mine named Sarah, this happened with her. I was looking at her and then I'm like, hey, so I got to tell you something. And I knew I could be comfortable with her. So I just did. And I was like, you were a male in a past life. And it was like 1700s. And you were, there was something to do with fans. Like hand fans. And I was like, there's just fans. I don't know why, but like you have this collection of fans. And in this life, she's a very strong-willed person. And so the male thing kind of maybe made sense. She was like, oh, okay. But then she started like holding up her arm going, okay, what are you doing? Because she had goosebumps. And she's like, what do you mean fans? I'm like, I don't know. It's just coming to me. I'm literally seeing this play out. And I said, you died of some disease. And I can't remember the name of it now, but I said it. It started with a C. And I don't know. I don't know history. That's not my jam. I don't.
Cholera?
But when maybe, yes. When I looked it up later, I'm like, wow, that is around that time period. That's so weird. So in this life, as a child, she was obsessed with fans. She had a massive collection of fans.
Seriously.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I was like, oh, you know, Twilight Zone music plays. And like, she was like, I can't believe you did that. And yeah, so that's, I mean, sometimes if I let it happen and I don't like push it away and I'm like, I don't want to deal with that right now, it comes out. And I think the thing that stops me is sometimes it sounds so silly when I'm telling somebody something. Like, I'm like, yeah, hey, a hand fan. And, you know, to me, that means nothing. But to her, that had obviously such a profound
Freaking
impact on
out.
her because,
Yeah.
because she's like, oh my God, what a random thing. That's totally
Right?
what I've been obsessed with as a kid. I always had to have a fan. Like, I had such a collection. So, yeah, you just got to trust it.
Wow.
I ignore the messaging too much. I think I need to just let it come.
Mhm.
Just
So
let
you
it
said-
happen.
And part of it is
Experienced something similar,
fear.
Jamie?
What?
You experienced something similar?
Me?
Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
love to hear
Yeah,
that.
it's exactly the same.
Yeah, this is
Except
the
I don't
first time I've ever
experience
heard it.
I don't do past lives. It's more if you've got like a question, like a philosophical, spiritual question for me, what will happen is I see the same thing, but it's up here. And it's like a little movie that plays and I can see it. And then my job is then, and it's the answer to whatever the question was, but it's in like a parable. And so it's my responsibility to then interpret it into words that I can deliver out. And so I had a thing recently with a friend and I was like, right now I am seeing like a sweatshirt, like with holes in it. And you have to like repair the holes before you can go outside. But I was relating that back to like life and decisions. And he was like, oh my God, it's so crazy. He was wearing a sweater that had holes in it. And he was worried about going outside because it was too cold. So like I literally saw essentially like what he was wearing and how he was feeling kind of thing. So, but yeah, that's what happens to me all the time.
So weird.
Isn't that funny?
Dang.
Do
Yeah.
you, Jamie, when you have that,
Mhm.
do you turn it on or does it just come?
Well, we have an agreement now that I am allowed to say when I'm ready for it and when I'm not. Because
That's fair.
sometimes I just want to watch really stupid comedy and not even think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But if I don't say that, like, I need to turn this off for a little bit, I mean, it just comes constantly. It's like it's as if I'm a radio that's turned on and it's just a constant stream. And, you know, I get to decide what I tune into and don't. And sometimes I turn it off on purpose. And then sometimes I just let it flow. Sometimes it feels good. I laid in the sun today and I just let it flow. And like, you know, all these, it feels better. It feels more comfortable to my body when I do that. But it's also, you know, the real world here is there's shit I got to do also.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I feel you.
I got to have a job.
Mhm.
I got to be regular and normal sometimes.
Yeah, it's overrated.
Maybe,
Allegedly.
maybe not. I don't know.
The only
Pay my rent, Lee.
I can't do that, especially now. I talked to Josh earlier. I definitely can't do that.
Nope.
The only thing I can say that I've ever experienced that was similar to that, and it's going to sound really stupid.
Mm-hmm.
I was probably in like 4th or 5th grade, and I lived down the block and around the block from like a strip of convenience stores, Chinese food restaurant and stuff. And there was a stationery store in there, and they would sell like those champagne bottle popper things.
Yeah.
Oh, those are so fun.
You know, and when I'm in 4th grade or 5th grade, and it's like I have money. This is like
Take my money. Take it.
Yeah, this is the best situation that could be happening in my life at this moment, right?
Pinnacle of
So
your life.
happy. It's so
I'm with
content. Give me the poppers.
I'm with my neighbor. We go to the store, we're coming back. It's on a main road. And there's just these kids, they're older kids. I don't know what, you know, when you're little, older kids are just older kids.
1 year is like
Yeah, they're big kids.
They're coming down the street on bikes, and they look like they're not paying attention to us, and they're just going really fast towards us. They grab my bag,
Rat
right,
bastards.
of my thing. So like in that moment, I saw like my life flash. And it sounds stupid because who cares about like poppers, but like that's the only moment in my life where I could say like I saw like a screen type situation
Like you could see
and
what-
like running through
Oh,
something. That was
yeah.
it. I've never really said that to anybody before because that sounds absolutely ridiculous.
But it
It
doesn't.
doesn't.
It
No.
doesn't.
It's also over like little poppers.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter
No.
when it's over.
Mm.
Exactly. And
It
I
just-
think
it
those
triggered it.
little instances is kind of what like helps us tune in better. You know, I mean, I think probably if you tried, you probably could open that channel wide open if you wanted to, Lee.
Go get you some poppers. Try to do it
Yeah.
again.
So you know me. You guys know me well enough now that you know that's like kind of what I've been trying to do.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's, I'm trying to.
Go smoke DMT, Lee.
I know. I have an 8-year-old.
Just working
I
out.
own a business. It's not just go smoke DMD time.
Do it when you go to your cabin.
10 minutes.
I should. I just don't. I'm also like I'm going to the cabin because I'm turning 40. Where does a 40-year-old just get
I don't know.
illicit drugs?
We'll talk off air. We're talk off air.
Oh, okay, thank you. You know a guy. Great. But no,
I can't help you. I'm in Canada. I know a guy, but
I wish I was in Canada sometimes. Believe me.
Fuck, for real.
But I really truly am trying to, like, all jokes aside, like center myself and like open that door.
Yeah.
But part of me, candidly, is I think very scared.
It ain't for the weak, is it, Natasha?
I
No,
think that holds
and-
me back.
Yeah, it's a little scary.
and it will.
Yeah.
Yeah, it will. Being scared will hold you back. And
Yeah.
one of the things somebody told me once about, seeing spirits and things like that was your mind will only allow you to see what you can handle.
Mhm.
And so you've got to let go of the fear, because really, what's the worst that's going to happen? Like,
I think that's the problem is I don't know.
You just like being in control too much.
Yep.
My feet are sweating, so I know we're talking about real important things right now.
Oh, I mean, this is partially why this podcast exists. This
Yeah.
is my examination of that thin veil.
And I'll just tell you, Natasha, really quickly, because I don't know if I told you before, but I had a near-death experience a couple of years ago, and that's what like broke me wide open for all of this.
Yeah, because you
That's
weren't into any
incredible.
of this
I
stuff
wasn't into
prior.
any, I didn't know about anything. I was just very rooted in the 3D world. Had the near-death experience, came back with like a brand new soul. Essentially, is what.
wow.
I don't even recognize the woman that I used to be. It's like a soul
Wow.
swap happened, and I came back like just fully tapped in. Like as far as I want to go, I feel like I could go, and I imagine you're the same way. That if you really want certain things, that you can shift the energy around you so that it works.
Yes. It's just whether or not, like, there's always an excuse I find for me as to why I'm not. So it's
Agreed.
like, oh, well, I'm working full time and I'm tired and I have a 3-year-old and I have a 6-month-old and I, there's a lot of things that just I sort of push to the wayside just to like survive every day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm in that boat 100%.
Yeah, Josh is about to. He's having a baby in like 2 weeks from
2
yesterday.
weeks.
I know, that's so
Yeah, yeah.
exciting.
Exciting.
Yeah, we have our appointment tomorrow to set an induction date, so that'll be interesting. So I'm super hyped.
Oh, that's exciting.
Get to join the parent train.
Yeah. My kids are all grown up, so they're in their 20s. So
It's okay. I've been parenting like my friend group. I'm like dad every time I go to used to go to like house parties and shit. I'm like, they're like, "Where's dad? Dad can help us." And I'm like, "What? What do you guys need? What do you need?" So
you're ready for 2-year-olds.
yeah.
Yeah.
But when you're in it, like it's exhausting, it's time consuming, and it, and so I totally understand where you're coming from. And I imagine, Natasha, as your children age and you become older and wiser, that you will just continue to expand your gifts. And I would say I hope that you do, because I think that you can bring a lot of help and healing to your loved ones, the people around you, because I'm sure everybody loves you. You have a bright light about you. So
Oh, thank you. I actually get that a lot. And I the funny thing is, like, about this gift situation, I don't know what my blockers are, but I'll pick up a book opening to channel and I'm like, hey, this sounds cool. And then, I'm a reader. I could read a book in a day if I like it. But this book sits on my shelf with the same sentence being reread over the last year. And I'm like, why can't I do it? Like every time I try to dive in more, I find I get overwhelmed. And I think a lot of it is that we are all like these like sort of different spiritual things that happen, like they're in a box, and I don't feel like I have one specific thing or one specific definition.
Yeah.
And like I just feel like there's just a lot of different things that we can all be, and it overwhelms me sometimes because it does come so naturally to me. Sometimes I'm like, well, I don't even know where to begin with that, but I figure eventually one day I'll be able to sort of be more at peace with it and figure things out, and be able to maybe turn it on and turn it off and get messages to people that need them. It's just a matter of, hopefully when the kids get a little bit older, because right now I'm like running on fumes, I feel like half the time, with a busy 3-year-old and a needy 6-month-old and
and a podcast.
And a podcast.
Busy lady.
Yeah.
Super busy.
Varied. No rest for the wicked, as they say.
Well, sometimes I think that like the most important thing really is just to continue to shine your light. That you don't really have to do anything. And when spirit wants you to do something, spirit will let you know over and over and over
absolutely
again, and then I think the trick is like paying attention to the signs of synchronicity so that you know when spirit's talking to you before they have to knock you upside the head, kind of thing. Because I've been knocked upside the head a few times.
Oh yeah, we all three know about synchronicity.
Right?
Oh my gosh,
because it's too much lately.
It's the eeriest thing to me, like that feeling of like, wait a minute, like this is all aligning. Like I even just had like what I consider to be a moment of that today, and it's nothing necessarily paranormal or spiritual, but I left the house like an hour and a half later than I wanted to go get my passport photo taken, and I'm trying to find the place, can't find it, and I pull into the parking lot, and there's a man, and he's parked beside me, and he has like a Basset Hound figurine in his car, and I have a Basset Hound. So I'm like, oh, cool. So he happens to be getting out of the car the exact same time as me, and he has a bumper sticker too that says, I love my Basset. And people who have Bassets love their Bassets. It's not a joke. We're like intense. So he gets out of the car, and I said, hey, I love my Basset too. And he goes, what? Looking at me, and I'm like, oh. He's like,
crazy lady.
I love my
Thanks
Basset
so
too.
much,
And he
Natasha.
goes, oh my gosh. And he came over and stood beside me, and we had this really lovely, quick chat about Bassets. And
it warms your heart.
Well, he's like, I'm 70 years old, and he's telling me about his former Bassets, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So then it was just like, I was like, I'm really glad I met you today, and like, he was so drawn, like, touching my arm very sweetly, like, oh, Bass, and it was like, I almost felt like, okay, he needed that connection today. He needed that today. And that's why I was there. So
that's it.
You were the little light for him today.
That as the gift that you just followed the flow that you were supposed to follow. And I love that. That's beautiful. You remind me a lot of me, like so much. So weird.
Maybe it's not. Maybe there's just lots of us like out there that are like the same person, that ready to shine the light. And it's funny that you say that, the light thing, because I've worked with a spiritual healer who I went to before when I lost my cat. I was really like torn up about it, and so I went to a spiritual healer, and I'll go figure right away. She asked me as soon as I walked in the door, hey, do you have a black cat that recently passed away? And I was like, yes. And she's like,
yes.
Yeah, pretty much. She's like, oh, she's right on your shoulder. And the cat was my shoulder cat. She's always on my shoulder. So
I just got the
I was like,
children.
yes. So that's my baby girl, my kitty. So that was really interesting, because she ended up telling me that like we have lived every life together, this cat and I. She's like, you always find each other in every life. That's why you're so upset that she's gone. You've been like alive since like way back when together, like every century. And so that was like really nice. But the long story short is that I actually was part of a book that she had written about like inner space healing. I wrote a chapter for the book, and she described me like when she signed the book, she was like, you have light. You are light. Like, you need to get your light out there. Like, you are the light in the darkness. And, you know, that's what she's sort of always referred to me as. And so that resonates when you say that to me.
So just keep shining the light.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The rest of it will flow naturally, however it's supposed to.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's acting on those impulses, right? Because how many people like
Exactly.
with social anxiety would be like, hey, I love my basset too, to some random
But
stranger.
that's what I
like,
do. I do
Right.
stuff totally like that.
I could just see Jamie hanging out of the car window, be like, "Oh my god, I need to go talk to this person right now. What's up?"
Jamie honks for everything.
For everything.
That's funny.
Can I go back to your dreams real quick?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Are you like lucid while you dream, or are you just being like guided by the dream? Can you make decisions?
Sometimes. So it's funny. So a recurring dream that I have very, very, very often is about elevators. And I hate these dreams because
Natasha, stop it.
I don't like elevators.
Stop it. Hold on a second. This is what I have. Do the elevators go sideways and upside down and you fall down?
Yep. Like Willy Wonka's glass elevator, like sideways, like boop, 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 boop,
oh my
boop.
god,
Yeah.
that's how I tell people. It's like Willy Wonka's. That's what happens in my dreams.
Isn't that
And
funny?
that's how I learned how to lucid dream, because I figured out how to say stop. This is a dream. I don't have to be afraid anymore.
That's so funny. So
I want to do that so bad.
I have never ever in my life met anyone that has the elevator
That's
dream.
insane.
Really? Oh my goodness. I will tell you, like, I just a few days ago, I had my first non-scary elevator dream where everything worked out just great. I got off on the floor I needed to get off. Like, and so when you ask, like, do I control them? Do I make decisions? It's funny because when this, like, the dream doesn't start out necessarily with an elevator.
Exactly.
Sometimes it's something else. And then I need to get to the elevator and I'm in an apartment building, whatever, wherever I am. But that's when I know, oh shit. Every time I'm like, oh, I don't know where I'm going on this elevator right now. I don't know. I was like, I know if I push the button, it's going to go do what it wants anyway. So like, I spend a lot of time like being like, oh man. And sometimes there's other people with me in the elevator and I'm like, here we go. Cause it goes up and it doesn't stop and then it keep going up or open on a floor that doesn't exist. Like, it's just a strange situation. And that's when I become aware that I'm having a dream, but I can't necessarily get out of it.
I have airplane dreams where I'm either in the airplane and it's crashing or I'm watching it crash. And that was the other scenario where I learned how to lucid dream. Because I used to be afraid to go to sleep at night because it was going to be one of those two dreams until I figured out how to make it stop, or realizing that I had the power to make it stop. And once I could do that, and I didn't even know what lucid dreaming was. This was like 10, 15 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
So is that the thing that always tips you off, is the elevator?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. The airplane is scary, but the elevator is the one that is the absolute worst.
Yeah, I hate it. I hate it because it's so unpredictable. I never know. And it's funny because I'll know every single time, okay, I want to go to, actually, it's so funny. The other day in the dream where I had control over the elevator.
Yes.
Yeah, I went up to the person in the lobby and was like, so do you have any ground floor like that I can go to? Because I knew I was trying to actively avoid getting in the elevator in my dream because I know every time it's just like bonkers. So.
And then elevator, and then like what's the next, what comes after the elevator? Just nonsense, or
it's just
spits you out like an irrelevant?
Honestly, the funny thing is I feel like I might wake up because I don't know usually where things go after that. Generally, there's actually times where in the dream, I know I've pushed a button and then all of a sudden the elevator shoots up to like the 74th floor and then it shoots back down to 43 and the numbers are all changey. And then in some of them, I'm like, you know what? I'm getting out here. The door opens and I'm like, I'm taking the stairs. And I actually am that aware that I'm like, I'll take the stairs down. I'm not doing this. I don't want to be in this elevator.
Natasha, sometimes doesn't it feel like it's training mode? Like we're in training for
mode.
Something? Like
maybe.
Like I'm learning how to, like I'm in training for remembering how to lucid dream.
Like you're
Yeah,
just
that
learning
could
how to
very
do
well
it
be.
while you're experiencing it.
Like kind of like, a band would practice before a big performance.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's
Yeah.
like I needed the practice so that when I do have an important dream where I'm actually I have precognitive dreams. I have big dreams where I'm certain places.
Wow.
I need to start dreaming.
So yeah, I feel like it's almost training for that so that I know what to do in my in the big dream that I'm supposed to be doing. Because I do think we do real work when we're not in our bodies at night.
Oh, I do too. Definitely,
Yeah.
100%. Like, I think a lot of, like, I truly do believe that my soul travels at night. And, that snap back sometimes, like, especially with the kids, because like I'll hear the monitor, like the baby monitor, and the kid makes a sound, and like I'm so attuned to that with the mother energy, and so sometimes the snap back of like my soul to my body, I'm like like it comes so quickly, and I'm like, oh, what's going on? Like I'm back in the real world, and yeah, my partner's like, what are you doing? Because I'm like, ugh, like I'm out, I'm back, I'm here, I'm and yeah.
You guys know what I'm thinking about.
What are you thinking about?
What?
Tell us.
Them. Oh no, I've told you guys before. The only time I've ever felt like what she was just talking about was a couple weeks ago when I was meditating.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Ooh.
And I was actually like
Astral
projecting, and like the snap back in literally scared me.
Yeah.
Like, and like I was super calm, and then my heart was like 140 beats a minute instantly. It was just racing.
Yeah, that's
I feel
interesting.
like I get glimpses of all this stuff, and I'm not.
Well, you're still in training, young
Dipping
Padawan.
my toes.
Little see if the water's good.
This whole like similarity between you two, dreams.
Yeah,
that's weird.
So validating.
Just kindred
Do you hear
spirits,
something
man.
really weird?
Yes.
Right. Do you remember when the Canadian trucker strike thing was going on? I don't know anything about it really, but in my dreams, I was there right before it ended. I swear to God, I was like helping negotiate with the truckers. I was helping the truckers negotiate with one another. I was like, I don't know. It was the weirdest thing. Do you think I know anything about the Canadian trucker strike? Absolutely not. But I did like real work in a dream one time with truckers.
Wow.
Like it was a whole thing.
That's definitely really interesting. And if I can, before I forget, Lee, one thing that for lucid dreaming, check, like, do you wear a watch? Or I guess who wears watches? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I do. I usually have a smartwatch.
Okay.
Time.
Check the time like every 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Throughout the day. And you'll subconsciously do that in your dream. And when you do it in your dream and the numbers are jumping all over the place, because there's not a true time, you'll know that you're lucid dreaming. That's when that's when the fun begins.
Wow. Okay.
That's a good one.
I'm game 100%.
There you
That's
go.
good. I like that.
I'm literally going to set a timer on my watch.
Yeah. That's how I started.
No, I've tried a bunch of different things, but I'm not there.
Well, you just got you'll find what works.
I think it just takes time.
I'll get there.
Also, you know what?
Guys.
All right. I think it's kind of like, when you need to fall asleep and you're like, gosh, I'm really going to fall asleep. So then you absolutely cannot fall asleep. But the best sleep is when you aren't even thinking about it and then you just drift off. I think that like if you're trying too hard to lucid dream, you are not going to lucid dream. You just have
just
to
like seeing a UFO.
I know, man. It's my plight.
You
I just want it all too bad.
Because I think it goes back to what Natasha said earlier, which I liked so much, that your brain will only allow you to see or experience what it is that you're ready to see and experience. And so I think one of the tricks in life in the universe is when you let go and you say, this is what I want. This is how it's going to feel when I get it. And now I'm going to let the universe take care of it. And you just relax and let it flow through you.
I'm taking
gotta let
notes.
go.
Let go, baby.
Taking notes.
There's
just not a part of me, not an inch of my soul that can't say I don't want to see a UFO. So it's so hard. The funny part is that you were talking about family as well, and I know Jamie's family as well has a deeper connection to all this too. So I feel like
yeah. Like I have a great grandmother's Cherokee, and then so they passed down a lot of things, and then like my like Freemasonry, Rosicrucianism that runs in my family as well.
Wow.
So yeah, just like tapped in, learned some things when I was a child, like how to feel colors, how to read that kind of stuff. But at the same time, and I did see a UFO as a child, but at the same time, I was a skeptic and didn't want to believe in all of that.
Yep.
So I very much like pushed that away. And I didn't want that to be part of my identity because it was too weird. And so
Yep.
then I separated myself from that and then went along this, very normal life, teacher, mom, 2 children, blah, blah, blah. And then the eclipse happened. That total eclipse happened in 2017, went right over my house. And
Wow.
from that point on, as if it just started snowballing into something like I couldn't control. And yeah, there's a whole story behind my story, but that episode will be coming out at some point. But I don't know. I kind of feel like I'm
On the eclipse.
choice.
On the eclipse date.
That's right. We're gonna release it on the day.
Oh, April
Like-
April 8th, is that
Yep.
the day?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm pumped. It's the first one we'll be able to see, like in our
Nice.
region, first
Nice.
full
Yeah.
eclipse.
Oh,
So,
are you guys in the path?
yeah,
Oh,
You're the
that's
path
so
of
cool.
totality.
yep.
Wow.
That's so weird. I was in the path of the first one. You're in the path of the second one.
I'm pumped. They actually, all the schools here changed the
Yeah.
PD day or whatever for kids to
Yeah.
be that day.
Yeah.
That's so
So
cool.
we can all go and check it out. And
It's
yeah, I
so
got my
awesome. You're
glasses
gonna
today in
love
the
it.
mail.
You're gonna
Yeah, I'm
love it.
excited.
It's the best.
Yeah,
So much
I'm really
fun.
pumped.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm thinking about just like, well, I was gonna drive my dog. We were gonna go see it, but then my car blew up. So I'm taking that as maybe a sign. Well, it didn't completely blow up, but it almost blew up. So I'm taking that as maybe a sign that I don't need to drive there.
It's like you could set this one out. You got the last
Yeah,
one.
you got the last one.
Yeah.
Natasha can handle the second one.
I'm there for it. I got it.
It's so great.
So speaking of kids and like gifts and like passing it down and stuff like that, has like your kid, like your 3-year-old, ever like been like, oh, I'm talking to like this person in the corner or whatever, and it's like their make-believe friend or whatever, but then they describe it to you and you're like, okay, yeah, no, that's a ghost, but I'm just gonna let them go with their thing.
Yep, 100%.
Okay.
So, to backtrack a little bit, we actually struggled to like get pregnant, and so that was a journey in and of itself. And so this is gonna, I talk so much. This is gonna actually lead into the question that you asked. I will get back to it. If I don't, please remind me, hold me accountable. But it was March of 2020 and things were heating up with the pandemic. Like we really didn't know what was going on. Like that was a crazy time.
It's scary.
Yeah, so my partner and I were like, you know what? Let's pause on the baby making a little bit. Like probably it was January. We're like, let's just pause because like we don't really know what's going on. And we're sort of like, we can be fatalist a little bit like that. Like we had some go bags packed and I got some walkie talkies, just because, you don't know.
There's nothing wrong with being a little prepped.
I got them. Don't worry.
Absolutely.
I have go
absolutely.
bags. I've got like dry food.
Yep.
I've got MREs.
Yep.
It's ridiculous.
Yep.
Food stores. Yeah, that's
a ravioli, and I'm like, it'll be fine.
You'll just
Yeah.
find a guy to cook when the world ends. Don't
There you
worry.
go. Hey man, can you make me some chicken salad?
So yeah, you guys all know it's a scary time. And my grandfather in Florida, he had cancer, and so I went outside one morning at 7:00 in the morning, towards the beginning of March, and never in my life have I ever seen an owl, like in real life, like in
Really?
captivity, yes, but
Mm.
I live in the city
Wow.
and like I've never seen one before. So I walked outside onto my deck, light up my cigarette, and right away locked eyes immediately because I could feel a presence
Wow.
with a great horned owl in the tree. And in that moment that I locked eyes with that owl, I knew 2 things. 1, my grandfather was going to die that night. And 2, I was pregnant.
Oh,
So, yeah. So,
Wow.
and obviously this just goes through my mind and I'm like, well, no, like, I mean, whatever. Okay. But this owl and I locked eyes for 6.5 minutes. And then it flew directly towards me. And I later got this tattoo. I don't know, the light's pretty bad, but it's an owl in a tree.
Nice.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So sure enough, I get the call that my grandfather passed away. And then 2 weeks later, when it was time to actually determine, I was pregnant, and I had conceived that day, the same day my grandfather died.
You're kidding me.
No, I'm not. So
Natasha, wild.
I know, trust me, I know.
Ah,
So my son has the middle name of my grandfather.
okay.
And when I went to a psychic when I was quite pregnant, the first thing she said was, there's an older gentleman and probably your grandfather, but he's sort of standing outside your car right now. And she nailed him, like got him bang on. And then she said, just so you know, the soul of your son, like the other world is like rejoicing, like they're holding your son's soul for him until he comes into the world. And it's like a huge amount of people. She's like, it's crazy. Like, I've never seen this before. And she said to me, just so you know, he's going to like be as strong as, if not stronger than you, in terms of like spiritual ability. And she said he will have a lot of visitors when he's born, like spiritual visitors. And she said, when he gets to be of a certain age, ask him one day to draw where he came from, because it will be really interesting for him to express that in art. I said, all right, that all sounds great. And then, I had my son, and sure enough, we had so many spiritual happenings when he was born. So I'm talking like footsteps constantly into his room to this day. Like,
oh wow,
I have heard on the monitor very distinctly a voice say his name, which is Jack. It was like Jack. I recall when we still had him in the bassinet here in the bedroom, I heard like a sound of like a hand on fabric, which was like his bassinet cover or whatever. And when I opened my eyes and I looked, because we were sleeping for the night, there was like a larger lady, like literally standing at his bassinet looking down at him. And I was like, ooh, okay. And I turned, I didn't get maliciousness though. Like I was like, okay, she's looking at him very lovingly. Like I'm just going to turn over and shove my face into my partner's back and just pretend that that's not happening right now. So I can go back to sleep.
I'm just gonna pretend like this is not okay. Like this is not happening. I just need to go to sleep. But
right, like I was like, I don't feel maliciousness. I feel like, and I'm glad you're looking at my son. You're obviously looking out for him. You're protecting him. But I'm just gonna go back to sleep. So I just let it ride. And then when he became of talking age, he one day we were sitting in the living room and he looked in the corner and went, ugh, and came running over to me. And I'm like, oh, what's wrong, sweetheart? Is there somebody there? And I just said, hi, and whatever. And then, he became more comfortable with that. And it's always that corner. He goes, oh, there he is. And, oh, there's that guy. Or sometimes he'll be like, oh, good night, guy. And like, I'll try to say, hey, what's he look like? Like, and he just thinks it's silly. He'll just laugh. Like, he's probably thinking, what do you mean? Can't you see him too?
Yeah.
Like he's really, why are you asking me that? Like he'll start giggling and stuff. And, yeah, he's definitely, sometimes he'll say like, oh, there's a little boy in the living room hiding. And I'm like, oh, okay. Is he playing hide and seek? Like, I try to just be really cool and calm about it, because I don't want him to get a complex about it. And also I want him to know like, it's safe. It's fine. Like you're safe. And,
you don't want to like shame him. You want to like nurture it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't want to scare him either. Like,
because I am of the belief that like kids, like especially like at a smaller, like younger age, they are more connected to that side. And as you grow older, you kind of like get disconnected from it. So I've always thought it was very interesting when children are like, oh yeah, no, I'm just playing with, this man or whatever, or there's this little kid that I'm playing with, and just like, okay, cool, yeah, no, you do your thing, man. Just as long as you don't feel like you're in danger or something, it's A-okay.
Yeah.
And then it's also like very important to like nurture them and be like, not to shame them into it, because then they will be like, oh well, then now they learn to be like scared of it, or to like just disassociate it.
Yes, exactly. And when I do notice that it's getting a little bit like over the past few nights he's had nightmares. He's woken up and been like, I don't know why I'm scared.
Wow.
And so what I'll probably do is like maybe light some Palo Santo wood or something, or you know, just clean
Smudge
out the
or do
room.
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clean out the room. I've done it once before. It worked like a charm. So
Oh
I
yeah.
stick with what works. And you know, he had said to me something like the monsters are coming, and I'm like, oh no, they're definitely not. I'm like, I got rid of those, bud. Like that's what
Oh
I'm
yeah.
like, the
Yeah.
monsters
No,
are gone.
you're good.
Yeah,
You're good.
And mommy's here. She's got you. Like,
Oh yeah, no, I'm a firm believer in like smudging and saging. Like we have like different like varieties of sage, and then like in all of our vehicles that we have, in like my motorcycle and stuff, I have like a sweetgrass braid for protection. Like,
yeah.
oh dude, I love it because I used to ride with a Native American motorcycle club, and so like
Oh wow.
every time we'd like go on a run or just like go on our bikes and just do anything, we'd always do like a little smudge ceremony, protect
Yeah.
everybody. We'd get the smoke and everything like that.
Oh, that's
So
great.
like going back to like your owl, it's interesting because like I do know that like owls are depending on like the tribe and whatever, they could be very reminiscent of bad medicine, and then some of them it's just like for instance like the Lakota and the Ojibwa, like because I live in North Dakota and those are pretty big tribes up there. They see the owl as like an embodiment of like a spirit of somebody that's dead. So like when you were
Yes.
talking about your grandpa died, it could have absolutely been him just like, hey, I need to check on you, like say goodbye to you, but also I'm going to give you this little blessing that you're pregnant.
Yep.
And like I'm with your child right now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've also heard that owls actually can come and guide the souls to the other realm
Yep.
as part of when someone's dying. And funnily enough, my partner was so mad. He was like, "Why didn't you come in and get me? I would have liked to see the owl." I'm like, "Dude, I was eye locked with this thing. I was
just in
having a moment.
trance.
Like, yeah, it was my moment." And go figure, we're out there, I don't know, maybe smoking some pot or something one summer night, and he's like, "What's that?" And there's the owl. And I shit you not, the next day my cat died.
No.
So
damn.
I'm like, oh, you know, and he was like 19 years old, and like it was just, he just passed away at home. But I was like, oh my gosh, we saw it again. Like I'm like, I don't want to see this thing again. You know, like
Don't owls like bring spirits from the underworld or take them back? Like they could
yeah,
be,
that's what I've heard.
so
And
it's like he brought in like your child, he's going to be born, and then took out your cat, and yeah.
Yeah, we used to have an owl that would hang around like our house downtown in Bismarck. He would just hang out in the alley like at night, and we would get off work like bartending and whatnot because we were industry folk back then. And we would just be sitting on the stoop, and we would just hear like this owl hooting, and we would just make this joke. It's like, oh, that's Mike Jones, you know, the rapper from early 2000s. And you'd be like, woo, and then we'd just all be like, Mike Jones, and it was just our back and forth thing. And then we like after the summer, like we never heard him again. So we're like, oh man, Mike Jones left. And then like two summers later, he comes back. So we're like, yes.
wow.
So I love owls. Like owls are so dope.
That's so funny. Have you taught your son how to like you said, the return to sender? Have you taught him maybe a way that he can also return any energy that he doesn't want to let in?
It's a good question. So not as of yet. I will, like I did actually the other night, because this was a night where like, you know, he's okay. We get him into bed, and then all of a sudden he's like crying out for us. You know, so my partner had gone in like 4 times. I went in twice, and then finally we were like, "You're up. Let's watch a movie. Let's do something. Change the energy." And then when you're, you know, we'll go to bed later. But I did say to him when I went in there, I was laying in bed with him, and I said, "All bad things go away." And I said, "You can say that, Jack. You can say that. Say, go away. I'm sleeping now. I don't want you here." And whether or not he got that, like, I don't know, because he was also like so tired and like so like confused. But as he gets older, we will definitely look at that. Like I'll be able to sort of ask him, hey, like if there's anybody here that you don't want, you tell them to go away. And just so he has that like preparedness to be able to do that.
So in my brain I thought you need to have something like go away spray, like
fun,
spray bottle, and just call it the go away spray. And then
very cute.
He's afraid, and you can put, you know, essential oil in it. He could just kind of spray it and say, go away, go away.
Because ultimately, like you
that.
hold the power of it. So it's like as long as you put your intention out there and you're like clear and precise with it, it's like, okay, I got this.
Now, funnily enough, though, That's interesting that you say like you had the power of it over it, because I was absolutely in a situation in my last house where I didn't feel like I had power over an entity
Mhm.
that was there. And this this is like this is a story I don't often tell people because I'm like, no, this is just out like Looney Tunes. Like it.
Okay, this is the one we want.
Yeah, that's why we're
Okay,
here.
let's
Oh,
get
yeah.
into it.
This is what we're here for.
So I bought my first house when I was like 25, and it was built in like 1976. It was a condo, and the first thing that I noticed when I went in for the walkthrough was that like the basement door had a chain lock on the outside, and I was like, that's weird. So the first thing I did when I took possession was get out my screwdriver and take that right off because I was like not liking that vibe.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. Nah.
No, it's weird, right?
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
then I went downstairs into the basement, and there's like where the stairs are, there's like a little door that was a closet like underneath the stairs.
Yeah.
And the homeowners had left 5 unframed mirrors, big ones,
Oh my god.
in there.
No.
Ooh.
What
Mirrors
were
for
they
me.
doing
Mirrors
down
for me are wild.
What were they doing
So
down there?
I don't know.
They were
So
doing some shit down there.
something, right? Had to be.
Yeah.
So like I
Maybe
didn't
better.
really, yeah. And this is a time too where like I was sort of coming out of like addiction. So I've been in recovery for the last like 14 years, and I'm doing great. It's all good. But at the time I was just sort of like early stages of getting out of it. And so I didn't think like I was all there necessarily mentally. Like I had some trauma to work through. And so, you know, I kind of just some things that were happening in the house, I just sort of put it to like, you know, whatever, I'm going through some shit. And when I got to a certain, like I married somebody at that point, and like, you know, he spent a lot of time in the basement. I noticed his personality sort of started to change. So I'm like, I don't know. We ended up getting divorced, but anyway, long story short, I'm down there cleaning one day when I'm getting ready to sell the house. I only lived there for about 5 years, and I'm getting ready to sell the house. And I never went into the basement. I will say that I never once went into that basement. I didn't like it. It gave me bad vibes. He did all the laundry, and he did everything that needed to be done in the basement because I refused. And so it was something around like Halloween, of course, go figure, right? Like this is why I'm always like, people aren't gonna believe this story. Like this is like it's a tale. But it was around Halloween, and I had an oven mitt on in the kitchen, and I set the oven mitt down, and then I left the kitchen, and then the timer went off, and I went to go find the oven mitt, and it just wasn't there. And I'm like, okay, come on. So I start looking everywhere to the point where I actually thought I might have been having a mental breakdown that night, because I was upstairs in my linen closet looking for this flippin' oven mitt. I'm like, why would it be there? Why would I put it there? I don't know. But I'm going around my whole house like I must have absentmindedly like put it down somewhere. And then I finally like stood in my kitchen and was like, where is this thing? Stop fucking with me. And plop, there's my silicone oven mitt on the ground right behind me. So I'm like, okay, something's happening here. So I started to get a little bit nervous, and the same grandmother that like encourages all of this, I'm in the kitchen, and all of a sudden like my back door, almost like, you know, when like air pressure changes and you open a door and like it kind of opens or shuts.
Yeah.
Right. So it's doing that, except it's going again, like continuously. And I'm like, oh man. So I call my grandma, and I shit you not, the first thing she says to me when she picks up the phone, not hello, not what's up, hey, what's going on at your house?
Yep.
I'm like, I don't know. Why are you saying that? She's like, because all I hear is voices. Are you having a party? I'm like, no, I'm definitely not having a party. In fact, I want you to like come over and take me out of the house. But no, I didn't go that far. I was just like, all right, well, yeah, no, I'm definitely not, but I'm scared. And she's like, just tell them to go away. And I was like, okay, I will. So I did. But no, it didn't. Whatever it was didn't go away. Now all the activity stopped, but like that night or whatever. And I was like, okay, strange. So then I'm down in the basement, to go back to what I was saying earlier, down in the basement, and I see this dog toy from when my dog was a puppy, and I'm like, why is that down here? He was never down here. I don't know, because I don't go down here. So that's weird. So I pick up the ball, and right away in my voice, like I stopped dead in my tracks. Right away in my head, I hear, please leave the toy. And it's like a small child. And I'm like, holy shit, like I'm having a mental breakdown. I should check myself into somewhere because this isn't right. And I went to go grab like I was like, okay, I'm like going upstairs now. Like I'm not going down here. And when I came back down after, I convinced myself, nah, it's all bullshit. You're fine. Like you're good. Go downstairs and keep cleaning. Stop trying to avoid cleaning. Just go downstairs. Went down to the basement and the toy's sitting in the middle of my basement living room because it was like a large basement. And I was like, oh my God, okay, well, the floor's got to be slanted. That's how it happened. It rolled there.
Right.
It rolled there. I don't, I'm just like explaining it away. And I go to go grab the handle of my mop, and it's like somebody just like smacked it, and it goes right out of my hands the opposite way. Without even thinking, I was like, don't do that. That's not nice.
Ooh.
And I'm like scolding this little child. And then I started to like feel like almost like a little kid like peeking out, like in certain rooms. Like I feel like somebody was like peeking out and like giggling, and like, I'd be like, hey, stop, like I'm not playing this game with you. But in my head I always pictured it as a child, like a little mischievous child. And so when I started to sort of lean in, I was like, well, if I'm crazy, I'm crazy. I'm going to figure out what this is. And I went downstairs and I was like, I'm going to talk to it. And I said, I got to like the corner where the ball had been, and I leaned in and I said, tell me how you died. And I felt just like fire, like heat. And I didn't like it. I was like, I'm out of here. No, I can't do this. Like super uncomfortable. So none of that really like resonated until my grandfather came to do the electrical panel in my house to bring it up to code. He's an electrician. So to bring it up to code to sell, my grandma's down there with us, and then it's labeled. And I've never, I was a first homeowner. I was in my 20s. I didn't look at fuses. I don't know.
Right.
Literally my grandma goes, oh, there was a kiln in here one time. And I'm like, what? She's like, this is it says that this fuse was like, they had a kiln in here. And you know what a kiln is, right? Like,
for pottery. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just like stopped dead in my tracks and was like, oh my God. So now I'm making up all these things in my head. Like somebody killed this child. Like, oh my God. Like I'm just so nervous. And I'm like, I swear his ashes are going to be over there in that corner, because I keep hearing this kid. And then I just started talking to him like every day. I'd be like, hey, bud, how's it going? Just sort of, acknowledging that he was there. And my husband at the time's like, are you okay? Like, what's going on? And
what are you talking to?
Right. He's like, who are you talking to? And I'm like, oh, the little boy. And he was like, right. And that's fine. Again, we're divorced now. So, then when I think it came to like culmination when I was actually leaving. Like I had sold the house and the closing date was coming, and things started to go wrong in the basement. So all of a sudden my dryer's all messed up and I have to call someone in to fix it. And I'm like, no, this is like literally like I'm putting money out. Everything was fine. I have to have it up and running because the person's already bought. And like, I can't be like, oh, by the way, the dryer's now broken. So I had to fix that. And then I was in the kitchen, in my upstairs, getting my makeup on for work the one day. And I felt that this boy didn't want me to leave the house.
Yeah.
And he was just, it was almost like he was like, don't go. And I was like irritated because I was like, you're causing me problems. So I was like, I can't stay here. I know, I understand, and I'm sorry, and I hope that you can find your peace, but you got to stop doing. And I'm like scolding him. I'm like, you got to stop doing stuff to the house. And so I walked to the stairs and I start to go down, and it was like something pushed me down the stairs. And I'm talking like my foot, if this is the stair, my foot went off the stair, and all of a sudden I was going down. I seriously, I hit the ground on my stomach and like slid across the floor, got up, and I refused to go back to the house until someone was with me. I was like, I can't do it. I'm going to work. I'm freaking out. This is totally scary. Like, I don't know. So when I finally moved in here, it felt so like clean. Like I was like, there's nothing. I love it. Let's buy it. So
it's nice and refreshed. And you're like, oh, good.
My more, if what, sorry?
The people who bought your
people who bought the house?
Yeah. Have they experienced anything paranormal? Do you know?
So I'm going to say that when I put it up, we were actually in, like, for sale, we were actually in a huge, real estate boom. Like it is absolutely insane. Like houses were going for like 80% over asking price. Like to even get a house, you had to bid way over. Okay. Things were going like that. My house sat on the market for longer than it should have.
Mhm.
People who came in couldn't pinpoint why they didn't like it. And I sold under asking in a market where houses were just crazy. Everybody wanted housing. And the person who bought it, I've never met someone who's like bought my house before. Like we've never interacted. We all just do it through realtors. But for some reason, this person came into my house while I was there with his realtor to sign papers. And I got the weirdest vibe from this person. Like I was like, whoa, okay, makes sense. But 2 years later, he put it up for sale. So I don't know.
It's like, nope, nah, too weird. I gotta go.
Must have been.
Oh man.
Reminds me of that movie that where you say his name 3 times. Beetlejuice.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a like I think I told you guys about like my crazy basement story where like I went down there because like my house was built like pre-prohibition and then people were like living in it during prohibition time. And my house actually has like an underground tunnel, and so does like a lot of Bismarck, because like during prohibition, like the gangsters from Chicago and Minneapolis, St. Paul, they would come to North Dakota to like lay low and like while everything was going on. So the train station that's like in downtown Bismarck has a bunch of like underground tunnels that go to the whole downtown. And my house has one of those tunnels, but it's walled off now, which is interesting.
Wow.
And so like they would get off the train, they would bring booze and women, because my house was a library, a key shop, and a brothel during prohibition time.
Wow.
That's so cool.
And so like my house like for sure has 2 spirits in it. One lives upstairs and we call her Isabella, or Izzy for short, and she's super nice. Like she doesn't come down past like the bottom step. Like the upstairs is her area.
Wow.
And then there's a man in the basement, and then he won't come past the threshold, because my like the way my room is set up is like they've got my room, and then there's a hallway for the bathroom, and then there's a hallway to the basement, and then side door to get outside the house. He won't come up past the threshold to my room in that hallway.
Wow.
And so one night it was like 3 a.m. I woke up and I had to like go to the bathroom and everything. And I got out of the bathroom and I noticed that the door to the basement was just wide open. And I'm like, okay, well, this is weird. So I go to close it. And then in front of me, like right on the step, like right before you get out of the basement to come into the hallway, was at the time my roommate. And I was like, why? I was like, Dante, why are you in the basement? And how did you get in here? Because you'd have to go through my room to get to the basement because the side door was locked. And he didn't say anything. And I was just like, okay. And then all of a sudden he's like, hey man, I have something I need to show you down here. You have to come with me. And I was like, absolutely the fuck not. And I shut the door in this thing's face and then just went back to bed. And so like that was one instance. And then one time I was going down there to grab like fishing stuff, because me and my friend, we were going to go fishing. So I'm like bent over, grabbing the stuff, getting it all ready. I pick up this tub, and like as I pick it up, and I'm still bent over, I'm just like, I have zero business being down here right now. Because it was like it was him like, hey man, like this is my time, this is my space right now, you really have no business being down here. So I was like, cool. Put the fishing stuff down, went back upstairs, and my buddy's like, I thought we were going fishing. It was like, you can go grab it if you want, but I have zero business being down here. I just had this wave of feeling. It was like,
gotta go.
You're intruding in my space right now. I was like, cool man, no, you've got your time, do your ghost thing, I'll just go upstairs and fuck off.
Do your ghost thing.
Yeah, but like, and I know it's a man, because like I found like a World War I like or II style like military hat, and it's got this guy's name in it, Private so and so. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but yeah, we still have it. Like I have it on my mantle on like our oddity wall at home. It's so cool. But yeah,
it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Natasha.
Yes.
I want to talk about true crime.
Yes.
Does your sensitivity affect what you do in true crime at all?
That's a great question too. And I feel like sometimes, yes, I feel like maybe
Like,
I
do you become
haven't.
overwhelmed just even with like the emotion of it all?
Yes,
It's like
yes,
studying a case, you just feel
Yeah.
very like overwhelmed. You pick up on the energy of it and like all that.
yeah,
Okay.
100%. I actually had to stop. So I started all of this in 2020, and I didn't actually start it though until 2023 because I had to take a hiatus because, as you know, I found out I was pregnant with my first child,
Mhm.
and I was covering a case about a child, and I just couldn't do
Yeah.
it. I was
Yeah.
like, you know what,
Yeah.
I just can't. I need to put this down because I would have senses of feeling like I was there, and it just sits with me so heavy. And so, yes, I do have to find ways to block it out. Now, if you notice, I will not cover, like, none of my content features anything to do with small boys, like little children, little, because I have two boys.
Yes,
So no,
that totally.
can't do
It
it.
just hits it hits too close to home.
Yeah.
It does. And so, yeah, I definitely do feel all the feelings. Sometimes this is so I if I'm reading a news story, which to be honest with you, I actually tend not to do very much anymore because I am so like impacted by stuff. Like if I'm doing research for my podcast, that's one thing I've got my hat on, like that I'm like, I know this is what I'm doing and I need to reel in my emotions in a sense, like not let it affect me on like that internal personal level because you know I can't do anything about it now. And you know, yes, I empathize with the families, but this is my way of actually empathizing with them and not letting that person, you know, that they've lost be completely forgotten. A lot of my stuff is very like victim based where it's like, let's remember the victim, let's not glorify the person who did this to them, and let's talk about all the like wonderful things that they did in life and the memories that people have. So that's kind of my way of dabbling in that energy, but then being able to like give back in a sense as well of giving
It's kind of
people
like
a
you're
voice.
honoring that spirit. So it's not
Yes.
forgotten. It's not like you're doing anything malicious. You're just like acknowledging that they went through something very traumatic and you're honoring the spirit of that person. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, the last time I read a news story was, do you guys get Amber Alerts? Like, do you get that on your
Oh
cell
yeah.
phones
Oh
where
yeah.
they,
Silver
okay.
alerts, amber alerts, all the color alerts.
Okay, so I remember getting an Amber Alert, and those always stick with me really hard because especially like it's usually a child, and like I'm like, oh
Mhm.
no, like I think about it, and so the next morning I'm always like, if it happens at night, the next morning I'm always trying to like Google like, oh, was it a good resolution?
Mhm.
Mhm.
And the last time I did that, it wasn't. And it was a little girl who had been killed by her father, and something about it, it was relatively close to me, like 2.5 hours away from my home. But I felt like I've never actually verbalized this before.
Mhm.
I felt her sitting in my room,
Yeah.
and right away the message that I got was she was very upset and she was crying, and I was out loud saying, honey, I'm so sorry. I know, baby. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Come here. And I actually mimicked like giving her a hug. And
Mhm.
I'm not seeing her, but I know what's
Feeling
her,
the
like it's hard to
presence.
explain.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm like consoling her and rocking her. And she said, tell my mommy my purple unicorn is under my bed. It fell under my bed. It's by the pillow. And I'm like I'm actually getting like choked up right now and feeling
Mhm.
like goosebumps. I'm hearing her say that, and I honestly, and this, it sounds so crazy, but I held her for like an hour and was crying and crying and crying and crying.
Wow.
And I
Mhm.
wanted to reach out to her mom and say, hey, she wants you to have her purple, you know, horse or unicorn, whatever it was. She wants you to have it. But I didn't because I
Mhm.
was like, I don't even, it's an invasion. Who's going to think about that for a second? You're
Oh yeah.
grieving the loss of your
Oh yeah.
child, and someone's calling you saying, hey, your daughter came to me and, you know, she wants you to have, like, I couldn't. And
Yeah.
so that was, I
That's
just, yeah, I can't,
terrible.
I stop with that now because it just affects me a lot.
Yeah, because sometimes, because like even if you did it, sometimes like the people would be very receptive of it, and then there's those instances where it's like, no, absolutely the fuck not. Like, I
Mhm.
don't.
Yeah.
Why are you messaging me about this? Like, you have no right. Blah blah blah. So yeah,
Yes.
no,
Yes.
I completely understand why you like stopped, but being there for that spirit is very important though, because it like it does honor them. It does give them comfort because they don't know that something has happened to them most of the time.
Yeah.
They're just very sad that they're not where they're usually at, and now
Yeah.
they're in just this
Mhm.
new ethereal place.
Yeah, I think you helped her cross over.
Hmm.
But
And I
you
would say
know,
that
you
yeah, go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well,
Go ahead.
just the purple unicorn or whatever, that she made sure a different way that her mom got that. You don't need
Good.
to worry about that anymore.
That's good. And you know, it's funny though, because again, as we've talked about, like rooted in logic, first of all, after that experience, I'm thinking, why me? Number one,
Mhm.
you don't know me. I don't know you. I know, you know, why and then I start thinking, like, why would you make something like that up? Like, what's wrong with you, Natasha, in your head that you're manifesting this child that you're pretending is there? Like, I'm
Hmm.
like, oh, I must have done it as a coping mechanism because I was so impacted by the like reading the article. And I just try to again explain it all away because I do often have like that imposter syndrome of like, nah, that didn't happen, you know?
Hmm.
Oh yeah.
That's what I
Well,
struggled with the most, because I was running into people in like the spiritual community, and they're like super, I don't know, the people who charge money are the ones who like, I know everything. And I feel like the ones who are charging money and saying they know everything actually do not. And I
Yep.
think it's those of us who we don't charge the money and we're like, I don't know if this is real. Do you think I'm crazy? Like, we're the people I think really doing the work. It's behind the scenes, it's quiet. We're not trying to get famous on this. It's just there's real work to be done here.
it's like you guys are genuinely helping and not just like trying to
Yeah,
do it for a
exactly.
profit or attention
Yeah,
and stuff.
yeah.
And you're like a beacon of light, so maybe that spirit or other spirits just are drawn to you because they can
I
see
think so.
your light on the other
Yeah.
side.
Kind of
You're
like
kind
a
of like a
light,
lighthouse in the darkness.
go to the light, you know?
Come to me. Come to me. Yeah. Yeah. I
Well,
mean, and
I
that's
got
a
a
great way
timeout.
to
I got
put
to go to
it.
the bathroom.
Oh, okay.
Doo-doo-doo-doo.
Go back.
And we're back.
Yep.
I
Magic.
love it.
So I really do. It is all fascinating that you guys can be talking and you guys finished each other's story sentences.
Sandwiches.
Yeah.
That's wild. We've
Kindred
talked
spirits.
one other time and like 10-word emails.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
That's
that's it.
wild.
So it's not a plant. Like this is all
No.
real. It's all
No.
happening.
Very
And-
validating.
And
Feels
we have
very
only all met in
soothing, honestly.
2024.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's
Wow.
Because
wild.
we've been doing this
It
for what
is.
now? About 2.5, just 2 months now.
About 2.5 months.
It's
Also
so
wild.
odd
Brand
too
spanking
because like I'll tell you, I'm like I'm the worst millennial ever. I'm terrible at social media. I don't know what I'm doing half the time. I'm learning. I
Me
got my
both.
little TikTok going. Like I'm like, all right,
You
let's
do a
do this.
great job. It's absolutely awesome.
Oh,
I love your
thank you.
missing Mondays. Like I live for those
Oh,
posts on
good.
Instagram.
Oh, thank you. It's crazy though how many people are like missing.
Oh, yeah.
That's shocking.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I
Um,
know it's super sad, but I love seeing them because I'm like, yes, go after it, Natasha, get it.
thank you, thank you. But like, I never really went on Reddit. Like, I never even went in. Like, I've had it, but I'm kind of like a lurker. And then I saw like, oh, you know, hey, why don't I like go on a podcasting thread or whatever they even call them? And that's how I came upon this. So like, it's just strange because it's not something I would normally do, and I wouldn't normally put myself out there. And then I'm like, oh, hi, strangers, let's have a
I
conversation.
know.
I've heard that
That's
before.
That's
I've heard that
exactly.
exact story twice before.
Then it's meant to be.
It's
I
meant to be.
never comment on anything on Reddit, and then like I was just doing my morning shameless scrolling after waking up, and then I saw Lee's post and was like, you know what? I'll toss my hat in there. I never comment. Like you can look at my Reddit. I don't post. I don't comment. I don't do nothing. I just lurk at stuff, and then here we are.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Mhm.
I knew that I was supposed to do a podcast at some point, and I've told people like, "Oh, this is gonna be my podcast," but I wasn't sure quite, how it would turn out. And then when I saw your post, I was like, "Oh, this is it."
Oh yeah.
I already knew
That's
this was gonna happen.
because like
You
you
did
made
it.
that post like right that morning, and then like Jamie and I were one of the first people that messaged you
Like
about
one
it.
and two. Literally, I look back at it. It's like
Wow.
1 and 2.
Yeah.
I feel like it's the opposite for me. Like for me, it was the invitation for me to start like really looking into all this stuff and taking it more seriously than just like Saturday morning documentaries and stuff. Like actually doing my own little adventure. Because like you said, I know I'm out here on a podcast, but like I'm a shut-in. So
Oh yeah. I hate making new friends, so like
Yeah.
it still blows my mind how like well we like mesh.
Yeah.
Especially after a short time. Like you guys are absolutely my favorite people.
I know. We have so much fun.
But
It just feels good to be able to talk to other people who get it,
Mhm.
or at
Yes.
least who are open-minded enough to listen
no,
and
that's why we're
believe.
here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why we're doing
Yeah.
it.
And what I find so interesting is that I have had a podcast of your own,
Mhm.
yet you didn't bring any of this supernatural paranormal stuff into it at all.
No, my friend is way too skeptical. And
Mhm.
Both
it,
of you.
it
Yeah.
turns into oh, you talking to me or her?
Well, I was talking
Oh.
to her.
Oh, go. No,
Oh,
go.
I was like,
That
is
way.
it me? Is it me?
Yeah,
Both of you, really, because he has another podcast
Yeah.
as well. So
Oh,
he
okay.
doesn't get to indulge in this kind of stuff either when
Wow.
is doing his other podcast. So
Yeah, I don't. Mine is strictly just true crime. Because I honestly like this is a topic that I don't, as I've mentioned before, really like to share that much because. I mean, people's perceptions of somebody, like, do you know how many times they've been called like, oh, that's just that like hippie chick over there? Like she,
Mhm.
and I just don't like that label. I'm like, come on, take me seriously. Like, since it's just, so I just keep it kind of on the down low because people start looking at you sometimes like, oh, what? And then suddenly, you're not getting called to go out with the friends again, and you're like, oh shit. Like
I'm that weird person. I'm the weirdo.
yeah. And you know what? Honestly, I had to be honest. I'm not ragging on weirdos. I love who I am now. I love that I'm a
Oh,
weirdo.
yeah.
I love that I'm
Same.
eccentric. I
Let
love
that weird
all
flag
of that.
fly.
Yes.
I'm just like,
Hell
I
yes.
just am who I am. I can't help it.
Yep.
Mm-mm.
Yep. And I'd rather be a weirdo than like a normie. So,
Welcome to it.
Shit's
Yeah.
more fun that way.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And I listen to way more true crime podcasts and shows than I do any other form of media, which is funny.
Yeah, that's me too. Honestly, like if I want to have a nap, I just throw Forensic Files on because I'm like, I've seen every episode about 6
Yep.
times, and the voice just like lulls me to sleep.
Do you have a favorite?
I used to, and then I had my experience, and I don't want to go there anymore. I do know death is beautiful.
You're too close.
And the true crime is so violent. And so I have trouble now. I don't even want to like think about it or whatever. So I just, but I know you have like a story about the afterlife. Is that correct?
Yeah, I do. So my great grandparents were very devoutly Catholic. And that wasn't really carried on. Like I think my grandmother might have been baptized, but my mom and aunt weren't. I'm not. I'm original sin apparently, but yeah, they were. And I know how much it meant to them. Like as a kid, I can remember like being very fascinated by these like, this is gonna sound bad, but like these gory images of Christ on a cross. I'd be like, whoa, because I'd be like 6 and she'd be like, here's a pamphlet,
Yeah, I get it.
and teaching me this stuff. And I would actually like go to church with them too, just on like important times like Christmas or Easter, just because again, like I know how much it meant to them. And I was very fortunate to have my great grandparents in my life. My family all had children like in their teens, except for me. I'm like the old maid. I was like 34 with my first, but everyone else was like 17. And so, my mom's like 54. So
she's just older than me.
yeah, see, so we joke all the time we'll be in the nursing home together because she's only 17 years older. But yeah, so they it meant a lot to them, and they liked having me go, and I was very close with them. Like even in my teens, you know, if I had the opportunity to sleep at a friend's house on New Year's or go to my great grandparents, I would go there to my great grandparents' house. Like
Aw.
they're very sweet people. And so I also, because my family's so young, as you can imagine, I haven't experienced much death in my family. So my great grandfather was really one of the first. Oh man, no. See, now I'm you see, this has opened up a can of worms. So
Feels.
I just on a like little side note, and we'll get back to my great grandparents. I wasn't really close with my dad's side of the family. I didn't really meet them until I was 7 years old, and my great grandmother on his side was actually the first death I ever experienced, and I was 17 years old. And for not being like overly close with her, interestingly enough, she was in a coma in a nursing home, and I had a dream about her that night. And I was like, in the dream, she came out of the coma, and I knew I had to go see her that next day. So I'm like scrambling at the age of 17. I was like, I need to go there. I need to say something to her. Like she's going to come to, and I shit you not, like, and my dad is like so not into this stuff. Like you have to understand, like he is like, no, like
the farthest away from it.
I am the blackest sheep that you ever met in that side of the family. Like I've got my tattoos. Like I'm very, you know,
Join the club.
Yeah. So you can imagine like when I'm like, no, I have to come there. I have to come there. You don't understand. I have to come there. And he's like, no, you're just trying to get out of your math test. And I'm like, no, I'm serious. So I went there, and I held her hand, and she literally opened her eyes and looked right at me and was like, Natasha. And I fainted.
Get the fuck out. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
seriously.
I'm about to.
Oh, yeah.
God.
Mhm. I was like, oh my God, my knees like went out, and the nurse was like, oh no, like, and yeah, that definitely happened.
Wow.
And actually, funnily enough, later on, like I was walking home on a summer day, still again 17, not long after she'd passed, and this lady looked really confused, and it was an elderly lady. And the thing is, I won't like this is actually to my own detriment sometimes. Like I am like that person who gets involved. Like if I see somebody being bullied, or even if I don't know them, see. So I had to step in, and so you know, if I see someone in distress, I will step in. Like
Me too. Every single
time.
time. I don't think.
Every time.
I don't
Oh my
think
God.
twice about it. Just jump into it.
We're the
And
helpers.
it drives my partner crazy though, because he's like, you could have gotten hurt, and I'm like, I'm scrappy. I'll handle my life.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't give a fuck as long as they're okay.
That's right. That's right. Like you can
Don't worry
do
about
what
me.
you
I'll
need
be
to do.
fine.
Yeah,
Mhm,
exactly.
mhm.
So I see this lady, and she's kind of stumbling, and I'm like, oh, okay. The instinct in me is like, hey, miss, are you okay? And I like put my hand on her shoulder. Are you okay? She goes, instant clarity. You're the one. And I go, what? And she goes, you're the angel I'm here to see. I said, pardon? She goes, my name's Phyllis. That was my great grandmother's name.
Stop it.
Oh,
So
dang.
seriously, so I'm like
Crazy.
holding her. I go, are you okay? Do you need some water? It's really hot out here. She comes to completely different and goes, who are you? Where am I? I'm like, okay, let's walk you over to this apartment. It's a little hot out here. Like, let's just make sure you're okay. You're safe. Like, where are you going? Where's your home? And so that was my first experience with death. And then the follow-up of apparently I'm the angel that Phyllis came to see.
Wow.
So there was
Dang.
that.
Wow.
Yes. And so if that's not enough validation, this next one I think will be pretty intense for the afterlife, that it does exist, because as you know, in Catholicism, you know, or any religion, there's a heaven and a hell. You strive to get to the heaven. And I remember being really worried for my grandparents, because I'm very much like agnostic. I'm spiritual, but I don't necessarily believe in one God. You know, we could talk probably on a whole other 3 hours about that, but
We'll have you back on. Don't worry.
There we go.
So my grandfather was in the process of passing away. Like it was time. He was in his 80s, and my whole family is very, very close, sometimes to the point of being too enmeshed in each other's lives, actually. But we were all there, and when I say all, I mean like my aunt, my grandmother, like, you know, me, my cousin, and I was the last one to arrive. And when I got there, I went up to him. I was very close with him. And I was holding his hand, and he smiled at me, and then he actually just like passed away. And my family, like, they're also like I'm like, I hope they don't listen to this. They're like instantly like, okay, let's order a pizza, blah, 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 blah. And I am like, everybody get out now. I'm like, go to a different room. I want time with my papa. This is so disrespectful. So they all leave. They're like, holy wow, okay. So I'm holding his hand, and I said to him, I was crying, and I was like, I hope you lived your life the way that you wanted to, and that you're going to a place where you're happy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, please send me a sign. I said, I will devote my life to whatever I need to do if you show me a sign that you're okay and that there is an afterlife and that you got there, because that is really what I want for you, for the way that you lived.
Yeah.
So he's actually from India. And you know, one of the things they do there is like they usually watch the body like be cremated or whatever. Like, so he wanted that. He wanted us to watch that of him. Now you're not like watching it like it's in a box, but anyway, we're driving. And when I say we, I mean his wife in the passenger side. My mother was driving. That's his firstborn granddaughter. And then his daughter, so my grandmother, and then me, his firstborn great granddaughter. And we're driving down the street, going to the cemetery where they're going to do the cremation. And all of a sudden, my mom goes, "What the hell is that?" And she's looking at her window. And I shit you not, it is a dove flying right, like we could have touched it. And it stayed with the car, and it dropped back to my window, flew around the back to my grandma's side, that window, and flew to the passenger where his wife was. My grandma at this point is literally squeezing my hand so bloody hard. She's like, her mouth is like open, like this. And the dove like flew, then went in front of the car, circled twice over the car, and flew away. And we're all bawling like, oh my God. And my grandma's like, if we weren't all there, nobody would have believed us. But this is truly like, this happened. And so, you know, I'm sorry that I didn't become a Catholic great grandfather. I love you so much. But, you know, I actually have felt his presence so much in my life since he's passed. Like I have like little like mementos, like a handkerchief of his on my side table, you know, and I feel him probably the most often. And sometimes I get this really nice vision. Like if I'm listening to like Moonlight Serenade, which is like an old like 40s song, instrumental, like they were big into dancing. Like I actually have a projection of seeing them as their younger selves dancing to the point where like my heart is so full, I just emote. Like I can't, I just feel them there. So yeah, if you ever wondered if there's, you know, what a symbol, the dove, I mean, that is like rooted in Catholicism and Christianity. And then for it to stay with us and be right there, I've never seen that, never heard of that. And then, you know, I asked him to give me that sign, and I think he really did.
That's beautiful.
I certainly think he did.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, no, more validation, but more questions in my mind. I won't know until I die, and unfortunately, I don't want to die yet.
No,
I feel
never stop asking questions, though.
I know.
Yep, that's what I tell my 3-year-old all the time. You ask me why as many times as you want. I will do my best, but we will. And if I don't know, we'll figure it out together.
Yep, I'm on this wild journey as you are too, man.
Agreed. Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed your stories. I really think it gave me a lot to think about, is what it really did.
Oh, yeah.
Well, good. I'm glad. I mean, I don't often share like to this level, and you know, it feels like for me like a total like, whew, like I can breathe. I can be like, okay, I got all this out, because you know, as I talk, and you can see that I'm like, oh, wait a minute, this happened, that happened, and I spend so much time pushing it down that like having it freely come out is so freeing and so wonderful, especially to such a non-judgmental audience. It's great.
Exactly.
Oh,
it feels if there's like
thank you.
It gets lifted off.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, it's a burden when you carry it all by yourself.
Well,
so we're here to like
that's the goal here. We're really trying.
That's the whole point of this.
It's not a burden at all. It's actually quite beautiful and unifying, in my opinion. And it's because you are so kind and compassionate and empathetic, like all those beautiful qualities. So thank you for sharing. sharing all
That's
of that.
my pleasure.
Right,
Of course,
so-
my pleasure. And you know what? I think if anything, what I learned today is
Mhm.
I've been asking for all this validation that what I'm experiencing is valid, that what I see and what I hear, and I've literally just given you all of the different ways that I've been validated in my life. And so it's like a little like ding, like, no, you don't have a mental illness. You're not having a mental health crisis.
Exactly.
You're tapped
Exactly.
into something and
Uh-huh.
right. So it's been
Yeah.
it's been
Yeah.
very fortunate that I, did this because I'm feeling like good about
Aw, that's so,
Awesome.
that makes me
Thank
so
you.
happy.
Yeah.
Mission accomplished.
Yes, we did it, guys. We did it.
Um,
I'm so happy that you feel good about it. Yeah.
do you want to talk a little bit more about your podcast? Because I'd love to hear about it. Because, like I said, I need another true
it.
crime
Yeah.
obsession.
Yeah,
Oh,
plug that pod.
yeah. If
Plug it.
For sure. Okay, I'm not great at plugging things, but so tell me how I do. But okay, so Crime Squad podcast I release when I can, usually at least monthly with some bonus content. I focus on Canadian true crime cases, both solved and unsolved, with a big focus on cold cases. And I think that the difference that I really want people to understand is, I'm a big podcast listener. Like I listen to many of them, and a lot of the time I hear like regurgitation of the same facts. So I'm not a Wikipedia reader. I actually put like 15 to 30 hours in each episode where I painstakingly research because I'm super anal like that. And I love it. So I I do everything I can. I dig in. I go through archives. I have my sources. I sleuth. I so that I can form a story, but then also be able to speak to my own like opinions and thoughts. So there's some of my own sort of internal thoughts being externalized through that, where I scoff at how the police might have handled the situation, or whatever, like surmise on what could have been. But again, I think the big difference as well is like I'm not putting out episodes like episode 2, Paul Bernardo, where I'm putting the killer in the glory, right? Like
Yeah.
I am covering the stories about the victims. I also like to do sort of special interest series. So I have one running right now called Death in Thunder Bay, which is a city in Ontario, and a lot of Indigenous youth are just coming there for schooling and winding up dead. And the city has a history of racism, and so there's a lot of other really great podcasts and books about it. This is sort of my take on it. So that's out. And then also in my very own home city, I did a special series on Elgin Middlesex Detention Center, which is a jail here in London. And 22 inmates have died there since 2009. And so I did a special series on that. That's out. And that one is really intriguing. And in fact, like, I with that I really try to show like these people who are incarcerated, they're still humans, like despite their drug addiction, whatever, they're not the crime they did, and they certainly didn't deserve a death sentence going into that jail. And actually the majority of them sadly didn't even get a chance to make it to the bail hearing. Some of these people are dying less than 24 hours of being behind
Are
bars.
you kidding me?
No, I'm not
Jesus.
kidding. No. And there's like some potential cover up situations where people are being beaten and it's been covered up, and like a lot of drugs are getting in, and like it's just it's a lot. And actually there's a class action lawsuit against the jail right now where over $33 million is going to be awarded to people who are incarcerated because it violates their human rights because of the conditions. So yeah, there's that series too. So I'm always moving. As I've been getting more into it, I've actually had a few people reach out to me, a few people who actually had people who were incarcerated, like one of the girls' fathers died there. And so I did a little bonus content on sort of how that impacted her. So again, just trying to use my platform as a way to get people's voices out there and like show, that there are victims behind the crimes, and that like it doesn't, when something happens to a person, it doesn't end there. Like there's multiple impacts of family members, of friends, like they're still here. And overall, it's quite sad what happens out in our world. So that's what I do.
Well, that's amazing. That's a lot of hard work. And I think it, like you said, the victim's side goes very unnoticed in a lot of these podcasts. We really do have a sick fascination for the guts and gore of the killer.
Yeah, we
Mhm.
do. And I'm like that too, because, of course, like I was reading all those books, when I was a child about like John Wayne Gacy and all these like major serial killers. And, my dream would have been to work in a prison as a psychologist with the worst of the worst, because I want to know why are you like that?
Why
What
they do
in
it.
your brain?
That's the
Exactly.
fascination.
Right, like why? And a lot of the times too, it's like they've had childhoods rooted in trauma, and they've had XYZ happen to them. And then I look at my life and it's so closely aligned, and I honestly ask my therapist all the time, I'm like, how come I'm not a serial killer? Like,
Yep.
riddle me this. Like, I don't get it. Like, I've
Where's
never
the
hurt
line?
somebody. Pardon?
I said, where's the line? Like, what?
Yeah, where
At
is
what
the line?
point do you turn to that direction? Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, is it going to happen to me later in life? Like, these are like fears I have. Like, and I'm like, I hope nobody ever looks at my search
Yeah.
history, on my bookshelf, because,
No, I have a padded room waiting for the day they look at my search history.
Oh, we're all on
Yeah.
a list. It's
Yeah.
okay, guys.
oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Between the downloaded government files and
I know.
Oh man.
Right.
they're on me.
Yeah. I'm lucky if I could even get across the border. I've been pulled into the American border like so many times and held and searched. It's a little crazy.
Uh-oh.
Really?
Yes.
Oh yeah, coming into America is insane, and going out.
I get away with
Hard.
like everything.
Yeah. Well, when I come back to Canada.
Nobody ever thinks I do anything bad. Ever. I'm
Don't
like,
say that. Don't say that. 'Cause
Oh,
Yeah,
my
don't put that juju out there.
Yeah.
Now it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No.
See, my first my problem was that I crossed the border in a car to go to a buffet like the Golden Corral. I don't know if you have that, so we don't have that here in Canada. So I got really super high on the car right there, and was wearing tie-dye and had marijuana Monopoly in my trunk. And so
Profiled.
they were like, okay, we're gonna put you in handcuffs and put you in a room and search you and have all that fun stuff happen. So then I was flagged. So then now it happens all the time. I just, I get over, like I do, but I have to warn people I travel with, like, hey, you're probably going to be interrogated. And so, my poor partner had never like been anywhere. Like he's never even like been to Niagara Falls, which is like 2 hours away. So I took him there. But anyway, we were crossing the border in Detroit to fly to Florida, and they literally took our passports in the line where we're driving, and they're like, get out of the vehicle. And they take him aside and they're like, do you know who you're traveling with? Who is this girl? Do you know she's been pulled in before? And he's shaking like a leaf, and I'm just so cool, calm, and collected. I'm like, yeah, whatevs. Like, because I've been through it so much that now I'm, wise. I don't let it bother me. But yeah, it's tough to get into your country.
Oh yeah, profiling's a real thing, because like even when I was like doing the motorcycle club stuff, like we weren't like a big bad like Hell's Angels group or nothing like that, but we would definitely be like profiled, and we would be followed by like police cars, and then they would pull us over for stupid shit. Yeah, profiling's insane.
Oh yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's even worse when they admit it. Like at one point I had like pink hair, and you can see like I've got lots of tattoos, and I was pulled in for a secondary at an airport, and the guy literally said to me, do you know why I pulled you in? I said, no. He goes, because I like your hair color and your tattoos. I'm like, oh, so you pulled me in to search me and pat me down because you like me? Like that's
so you're gonna pull me in
so
because you're gross.
That's a lawsuit right there.
Yeah.
Keep talking, buddy.
Right? I know. But little old me, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna move on. Thanks for letting me through. Like
right.
Well,
yeah.
That's crazy. I know not to travel with you at least.
Yeah,
Right.
don't.
you can travel with me. I get profiled the other way.
All right. You just
There we go.
you Jedi mind trick them and you just
Oh, you don't need to see my ID.
It was like, these are not the droids you are looking for. But I did. I don't know.
If it worked, right?
Hey man, she got on.
Yep.
No.
That's all that matters.
All right, guys. This was so much fun.
Yeah, thank you so much, Natasha.
Yes, it
it was
was.
really fun having you on, and hopefully we can work something out and you come on periodically, do a little collaboration type deal thing.
Yeah, that sounds fun. It was so great to connect with all of you.
Yeah. So lovely to talk to you. Thanks for sharing all that with us.
If someone wanted to get in contact with you, how would they do that?
Great question. So crimesquadpodcast@gmail.com is probably the easiest way, because I check it all the time. And so, yeah, that would be the way.
Awesome.
There we go.
What about us, Josh?
Oh man, if people wanted to get a hold of us, they'd just go to ssospodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear you guys' stories. No matter if it's creepy or if you think it's just way too out there, we'd love to hear about it. So come on in. Water's nice and creepy and fine.
Welcome to the secret society.
Strangers, thank you so much. You guys have a good night. And we'll talk to you guys later. Thank you for listening. Bye, y'all.
Later.